Hello and welcome back to Granted Gardens. Today is September 19th and we are going to be addressing some of the gardens that are starting to die off and continue to plant some things that we think will do well throughout the fall / early winter season. So you can see Tyler's down there, he's pulling his tomatoes. I'm probably going to pull mine today as well. So I'm going to take you guys along, show you what we're pulling out and what we're planting. I got my baskets ready. So I'm going to start up here on the deck. There's a lot of plants up here that have died off. A lot of our tomatoes are done. Some of them still have tomatoes on them, but quite frankly, it just doesn't make sense for us to hold on to them much longer because the plants themselves are gone. So I'm going to start by pulling some of the tomatoes. This one here has no tomatoes left and is pretty dead, so he's going to come out. Down here you can see some of my tiny Tim tomatoes and what's left of a tiny basil. We do have some little green tomatoes on here. I'm going to pull these and wash them. I like to use green tomatoes. There's lots of recipes that you can use them for. So they're not going to go to waste. I'm going to pull them and keep them and wash them. Over here is some of the lettuce that I started for a fall crop and one of my spinaches. I did go ahead and sow some seeds directly today to kind of fill this in a little bit, but it's coming along pretty well. Here's one of our eggplants. I was planning on pulling them, but we've got flowers and an eggplant that's still going, so I don't know, maybe we'll let this one go. This tomato will definitely come out today. Let's see, more eggplants. They're still doing well though, so we'll leave him. This one I'm struggling with because as sick and dead as the plant looks, towards the ends here you can tell that we still have tomatoes. Lots of tomatoes. This part is so hard for me because I get sad thinking that we're gonna have a period here where we could potentially be picking tomatoes, but we're not because I'm pulling the plants. That makes me sad. But however, I do have plans for this pot. I want to grow spinach in it, so I will utilize this pot still. So sad, but we will use them. They will not go to waste. Back here are some of the other tiny Tims. They're not doing so hot, so we'll just pick what we can and pull these guys. Moving down out of the deck, we have our rhubarb plant here. I'm going to pull some of the rhubarb. I only have one rhubarb plant. The other three that I had died off. So I have been pulling it and chopping it up, cleaning it, chopping it up, and freezing it so that I have enough to use it for something. Plan is rhubarb pie and or strawberry rhubarb jam or rhubarb jam. So I'm going to make sure that I harvest it while I can. Now when harvesting rhubarb, you want to make sure that you get a stalk that's about 12 inches long. You don't want to take the short, small one. So this is a great example. And I've been told that it's best to pull and twist instead of cutting. That way it has a more natural release from the plant and will cut down on any kind of bacteria getting in there or any kind of infections or fungus. Now there are multiple kinds of rhubarb. This one here that we have, it tends to stay green. Most people recognize rhubarb when it turns red. This particular variety stays green. I did have a few red varieties growing and they were doing stellar at the beginning of the year, and then I think an animal came along and ate them because they went from doing really, really great to being entirely gone. Like the entire plant was gone. Not bad, not bad at all. So you can notice here I still left quite a bit. When you're harvesting things, you want to make sure that you still leave enough left for the plant to regenerate itself. This will still continue to grow well through our first frost, so I'll probably get a second harvest out of this, but I got a pretty decent amount for now. How you doing?
Good.
Looks pretty empty.
Very empty.
Okay, so here's my tomatoes. They got pretty sickly pretty quick this year. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull all these. Keep the green ones separate from the ones that are turning. The ones that are turning though, I will try to keep and set out at the windowsill to continue to ripen. Look at that. Here's a nice one. As big as my hand. Alright, so this is what we're left with. Man, this garden opens up a lot when you start taking plants out. It looks so much bigger. Alright, so I did have some basil growing in here. I was planning on picking it and dehydrating it. There really isn't much here. There's just this one. The rest of them, I guess, got killed off. So I'm going to weed this out and get it ready for planting. What are you doing over here?
Planting lettuce and spinach and that's it.
What'd you do to make your bed look so pretty?
I nurtured it.
What'd you put in?
So right at your feet is called azomite or something like that. It's like broken up rock dust. That replaces a lot of the minerals and vitamin type stuff that gets sucked out by whatever you plant. I added Epsom salt, which is good for any green leafy growth, which is obviously exactly what we're about to start. So I threw in some of that to amend it. This bed and that bed especially drain much faster than I would like it to. Granted, we have like a clay base, which is what all of our dirt around here is, so it probably sits a little bit at the bottom, but I'd like to try to retain as much as possible. So I also added some peat moss to help kind of trap some of that moisture in the dirt before it all just drains straight through. And then like not even a pound probably of manure, just because we had some left over, and I saved the rest for you and your bed.
Thank you.
So I added spinach in the back corner, some mustard, some lettuce rouge de Hyver, and some Henderson's black seeded Simpson. So spinach, we're gonna call it purple lettuce. Some of the black seeded right here in the middle all the way across. And then this is called corn salad.
Alright, well, while we're out here, we're gonna harvest some other stuff because I haven't really been out here to harvest in a while. So these cucamelons, one cucamelon plant we kept, and I said it would cover this arch, and it sure did. So this is just one plant. It has reached the top and has started growing over. And we've got cucamelons. Cucamelons are fun to grow because number one, I just think they're really pretty. I love the vines and the leaves. The foliage is gorgeous. Plus they're just fun to eat because they're little small snacks. But one of my favorite things about them is that they tend to wait to really like take off. And at this time when like the rest of the garden's kind of dying back, this is like when this plant is thriving. So it's nice to have something, you know, doing well in the garden when everything else is dying back. Noodle beans are still happening. Very cool.
You're not even supposed to be in here, go.
Now I gotta get into these peppers because we've got quite a bit here that is ready. It was a stellar pepper year. Planting peppers here was a genius idea. They did so well in this bed, and for the last few years we have struggled to figure out what to plant in this bed to actually get a decent harvest off of it, and the peppers just knock the ball out of the park. I've got a great harvest here. We still have tons of peppers on these plants. Meanwhile, check out these loofahs. We have so many loofah gourds. They're beautiful. I love them. I'm so happy with these this year as well.
All right, so I just noticed something between these two beds and the others. There's only one thing that hasn't been done to both of them at the same time. So usually every time I pull something or plant something, I aerate the dirt. You might have seen me do it with the little pitchfork thing, and you just dig in, prop it up, and see what comes out. So this is a good example of what happens to your dirt when you don't aerate it. So I did it with mine, and I do it all the time. So when I put the pitchfork in mine, I pretty much just brought this up. Stuff that was already really broken up. The biggest piece you really would find is something like this, whereas hers was more like something like this. So it's not really compacted together like clay, but it is compacted. It's a good idea to aerate as much as you can, because that leaves everything really loose. And the looser it is, the more easily traveled the plant's roots can go through.
Hi. I did not know you was over here. Are you hanging out in the garden? Your hair looks very cute today, Mika. So I was coming over to pick some noodle beans. We have got an aphid infestation. Lots of aphid issues, and they are all over my beans too. How do I pick them when they look like that? Time to go, I think. Pull these out. Look at the size of this loofah. Holy cow, he's heavy too. Oh my goodness. Wow. There's a Tyler in there somewhere. Bye, tomato plants. Check out these peppers. These are Thai peppers, and by far one of the most prolific plants ever. We like to dry them and then crush them up, and then we put them on things like pastas and pizza, chicken. It's delicious. Okay, so we got my bed cleaned out, and I'm trying to decide what I want to plant in here. This is also going to be an experiment. This is the first time that I've tried doing a fall crop in this garden bed. Last year our tomatoes lasted well through the end of October, so we just let them go. And then I think we pulled them, and that was it for this bed. So this will be my first time doing fall crops in this garden bed, and I'm experimenting a little bit. Tyler did a lot of lettuces in his, so I figured I wouldn't really need to do lettuces in mine. So I pulled a few things here. I've got cauliflower. I don't know how well cauliflower will do in here. This says sprouts in 7 to 10 days. Minimum full sun. Frost hardy, yes. So we're gonna try, okay? I don't have a ton of space here. I think this is a 4x4, so I don't have a ton of space. So I'm gonna do like maybe 2. I might go ahead and just direct sow 3 in case one doesn't pan out. Then I've got cabbage. I wanna do some cabbage. Again, similar situation there. I don't have a ton of space, so I'm gonna probably do like 3. And then I've got radishes and beets that I'm gonna do in the front row here. So I'm gonna do cabbage and cauliflower in the back rows, and then beets and radishes in the front. So we pulled the tomato plants out of this little box. Got some spinach here I'm gonna put in. Now we eat a lot of lettuce, but I also really love spinach, and there's a lot of different things that you can do with spinach. So my goal is to grow an abundance of it and see if maybe I can learn how to can it. We'll see. This was seeds that were given to us, so they were packaged by somebody. It doesn't have directions or instructions on it. I'm gonna probably just do like the 2-inch rule as I plant this. Keep the seeds about 2 inches apart to give them plenty of space once they start growing. Now, for the sake of just having dirt to grow stuff in, I think I only have like 1 bag of potting soil left. So that's why we're reusing what we have here. It's not ideal because the tomatoes that were here growing already sucked a lot of the nutrients out of the soil, but I also am just gonna use what I have. Spinach.
Hi everyone.
Alright, so that's a wrap for today. Now we just need to start thinking about processing all this stuff that we pulled. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching,
and we look forward to sharing more with you soon. Yeah, see?